Caleb Williams is already in trouble early this season. That loss to the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy not only means that J.J. McCarthy is better, but you know that the Bears fans love Justin Fields and they watched him perform great on Sunday. So for Caleb Williams to come out and throw a kind of semi-dud, even though he had moments to lose that game, might be severely detrimental to him as the season goes on. Vikings, Bears, Monday Night Football. The Vikings pull it out, coming from behind with 21 points in that fourth quarter to beat the Bears 27-24 in Chi-Town, in Chicago. It looked like early, especially when JJ threw that pick six, that Chicago might have something going here. The crowd was raucous, but then they became raucous in the other direction as JJ McCarthy, toward the end of the game, 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, 2 of them passing, 1 of them running on a sweet read option, and they downed the Bears. For the Bears, this was a very bad sign. You had a rookie quarterback on Monday Night Football in your building. And I'm sorry, JJ's not a rookie, by the way. He was injured all of his first year. So I guess technically a rookie. I say that to say because some people were saying he did get to study the system for a year and be around the NFL. That does matter. But all that being said, you had someone's debut in your building and an 11-point lead, and you lose that game. And the main reason, yes, the defense was maybe not as great, but it wasn't like the Vikings had that far to go. They scored on drives from the 50s twice, the big punt return, stuff like that, so short fields. The offense in the second and mainly the third and the early of the fourth quarter was sputtering, was not doing anything, and that's a very bad sign. I think the worst part of this is the fact that Ben Johnson came out and told everyone that this was a possibility. The fact that Ben Johnson went out to the media and said, my offense won't look the same as it did with Detroit, definitely just put up warning flags. And I thought sometimes there's some gamemanship, but Ben Johnson has made one thing very clear since he got there. He's going to say his piece and talk. He talked about the offense wasn't good enough. He talked about how Caleb needed to get better control. We saw a lot of false starts from the Bears on a couple of critical drives, a lot of wasted timeouts in that first half, and it just continued throughout the game. And the main thing is Caleb Williams was very inaccurate still with the football. 20 for 34 passing. You can say that Flores had Ben Johnson bagged, whatever. The problem with Caleb, and this is the thing, right, when we talk about these quarterbacks, because Caleb did a lot of the other things that I love. He was running. He led their team in rushing with 58 yards. Swift had 17 carries for 51 yards, but the thing with Swift is he wasn't really breaking off big runs. He only had 3 yards a carry. So Caleb, specifically early on those first drives, he was running, toting, had a running touchdown as well. Caleb did a lot of the things that I like. But I think we love wins. We love QB running, and that's where JJ kind of won my heart back. I was like, is this guy going to run ever? Is he going to make? And then he did. And the Vikings running offense was great as well. So and O'Connell had a great game. But the third thing is as we continue to develop our philosophy on the QB wins thing, and I do think Caleb lost this game, it's accuracy. And don't let people confuse you and say Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball, Jaden Daniels can't throw the ball. Those guys were both top 4 in the NFL last year in completion percentage, and Jalen Hurts hits over 30% of his passes in week 1. Accuracy is a huge, I think like Jalen only missed 4 passes. Accuracy is huge, and that was Caleb's problem in year 1. He only hit about 58% of his passes. That's not going to get the job done. And what you saw down the stretch was J.J. McCarthy started when he got comfortable. And we'll dive more in him in just 1 second. But when he got comfortable, he started hitting every pass. And it was more like when Brian Flores got comfortable and started dialing up blitzes, stopped letting Caleb run around, and started telling his D-line, hey, don't just fully rush him, but you guys got to kind of slow down, rush him, and make sure he doesn't get out of the pocket. Once that happened a couple of times, and Caleb, I think, started to stop looking for the run as much and started looking down the field because he had maybe a little success throwing it to DJ Moore down the field, that is when the offense fell apart. That can't happen. I don't know. You can call it Ben Johnson's play calling. You call it Caleb Williams being inaccurate. I think it's a combination, but I told Dom, I told a bunch of my Darnell, I told Tony the Tiger this. Guys, I think that wins are about, I said 70% quarterback, 30% coaches. I think there are certain guys who can get it to 60-40. I think O'Connell's one of those 60-40 guys because he's that great of a coach. Shanahan, McVay at times, those guys. So I said to say, Caleb lost them that game. Like, how no matter how you look at it, you're at home. Yeah, they're not on the field at the same time. I don't really give a crap. Especially because the quarterback on the other end is playing his first game and he gave you a pick six. And I'm all for, hey, don't make mistakes. The second he scores that first touchdown, you got to get something going. You got to get points there. Now, there was a play early where the Bears didn't take a field goal, 7-3 for some reason. And he missed the pass to DJ Moore, but it was his first miss of the game. He started off 10 for 10, and that's the crazy thing. So he started off 10 for 10. He ended up going the rest of the game 10 for 24. That's insane. And I think it all started with that one miss to DJ Moore. The problem is one miss cannot deter you that much. It cannot affect you that much. But we've seen that Caleb is a very affected player by these things. But I do want to get to JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy showed the resilience, and I think college is different. I think college, it actually is more coach than quarterback. I would say it's like 60-70% coach to 40-30% QB. But he showed the resilience, and he showed why he was a champion. He didn't waver when a lot of guys would have wavered, especially in that situation. Week 1, he just stayed with it. He started hitting passes. He locked in, and he hit a mode where it was like, whoa, this dude's just not going to make any bad decisions or miss any passes. And I honestly think that pick six was good for him. Now that we look back, because early in the game, he was trying so hard. It's his first game. He's trying so hard not to make mistakes that he really wasn't letting the ball go. You know, he wasn't letting it go accurately. And that interception, by the way, was an out route on third down to Jay Jettis. Now, the next drive, he came out, sputtered as well. But at a certain point, now that you're down 11, you just got to let it rip. And he started just reading the defenses much better. I mean, the accuracy on those throws, when you look at the beginning of the game, you look at him versus Caleb, and you're like, wow, Caleb has all the speed. He's bigger, stronger, faster. He's all that. But again, the accuracy. And I was waiting for it because JJ didn't get to throw the ball that much in college. He didn't have to. You know, he had Jim Harbaugh there, great defense that knew everyone's plays, a good running game. But man, when it was time for him to hit those passes, I was very impressed with JJ. Very impressed. It might have changed my outlook on the Vikings, because if they still have a guy who, you know, maybe he doesn't quite have the cannon of an arm that Sam Darnold showed, but they didn't have Addison, right? Jordan Mason, by the way, huge impact for him as well. He was running the ball, going crazy. But they didn't have, you know, their second receiver. He's going to be out for 4 games for, you know, driving on the highway like a maniac. But for him to go out and do that on the road, that was very impressive stuff. It again showed O'Connell just outcoached Ben Johnson. Flores is just still a goon. And all those things. So shout out to JJ. That was a big win for the Vikings. And the reason that this is so devastating for the Bears, the reason that their crowd is booing, you've got to be able to beat the Vikings in that game. We see the Packers. The Packers are Super Bowl contenders. You know, and they put it on the Lions. And as much as I think that the Lions are going to miss their all offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, I still think they're better than the Bears. And even heading into the season, I thought the Vikings were better than the Bears. But football is a situational sport, and the situation is what it was. Yes, you have a new coach, but your quarterback has been playing all year and has played all last year. I'm sorry. And at the end of the day, you're playing someone who's playing their first start, big pressure situation, and you had 3 quarters of him looking like it was his first start, and you don't come away with that win. Now, I didn't think they were winning the game. Me and Tony the Tiger picked the Bears. I'm sorry, we picked the Vikings. We didn't pick the fucking Bears. We picked the Vikings to win that game because they're the Bears. But as a quarterback, you got to overcome that. You know, Joe Burrow has overcome it before. We've seen dudes overcome that kind of stuff. You got to be better, and the game was right there for him. And weird, too, because he didn't throw the pick six. JJ did. He led the team in rushing. They couldn't run the ball. I get all that. But you were a number one pick in the draft. You have all these weapons. You've got to be able to move the chains and hit passes. And I think the Vikings, even early, they start off 0 for 7 on third down. There were so many opportunities to kind of seal that game, blow the doors open. But even besides all that, once they start scoring, if you're playing conservative to try to keep the lead, fine. Once they start scoring, you can't wait till the end of the game to start scoring. And a huge moment of this game as well was Caleb had DJ Moore running wide open down the left sideline. He missed the pass. Now, they scored a touchdown on that possession. However, what happened is after they kicked it off and the Vikings smartly took it out because there was 2:02 left on the clock, they tried to kick it in the end zone. Got it to 155. That's huge because the 2-minute warning would have helped. The Bears only had one timeout, and that did play a factor because they only got the ball back with 20 seconds left to play. If he hits the touchdown, there was about 2:20, 2:30 left on the clock. You might even be able. It just changed. I mean, you're still going to kick it off to him, but that gives you that 2-minute warning. That gives you essentially 2 timeouts to use. Then you get the ball back with about a minute to go, only needing a field goal, and that just changes everything. Caleb was routinely missing passes, huge passes, where, again, if you win the game, it's different. But he was missing them high, middle. He kind of got lucky some of those weren't picked because they will get picked at some point. And I'm going to be completely honest. I was texting people like Caleb's on fire. I was a Caleb guy when he came to the draft. But before this season, I said, because I said it with Justin Fields in year 3, but he didn't have Ben Johnson. We saw the Lions offense look without Ben Johnson. And we might have saw Ben Johnson looks without Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They couldn't really run the ball today. But the biggest point was, Caleb, bro, you got to get it together this season. There's too many resources being put into making you successful. And we know Ben Johnson can call plays. And so for it to look like this, week 1, not a great sign. Even though Ben Johnson said it was going to look like this, I think the worst sign is that Ben Johnson said it was going to not look good. And then it did early when he scripted up the plays. But then when he had to call plays off the top, call plays kind of adjust to Brian Flores, Caleb couldn't do it. And that is a very bad sign for him and his tenure with Chicago.